everybody. Welcome back to another Three Girls, One Monthly Catch Up. We are actually going to be catching up for 2 months this time because I think summer has been busy for all of us. So we actually have both the months of June and July to catch up on. But we will be covering our normal topics, which is decks that we've worked with over the past couple of months, books we've read, TV, movies, other entertainment that we've watched or listened to, and then wildcard, just what's been going on with our lives over the course of the last couple of months. So I think Julie is going to be going first.
Okay, so for June, tarot wise, I worked with predominantly, and I've shown this before, which is the Grateful Dead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and and just had a lot of fun with it. So we've already talked about this at length, but yeah, a lot of fun. I'm not a deadhead, and I did through the process of working with this deck, I did learn some interesting things about Grateful Dead. Um, I think this is a good example of a fandom deck that even if you're not in a fandom, like you could totally use this deck if you liked the aesthetics of it, which I do. This has become like my fast and favorite skeleton deck. I think it might be one of my only skeleton decks, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've been on I mean, I've had some,
You've had more in the past, right?
and they just never stayed. Like over
Mhm.
time, it'd just be for like a season, and then over
Mhm.
time, just get used less and less. So I've always been kind of on the hunt for that, skelly deck because I'm a lover of skeletons, and I feel like at the risk of jinxing myself, this might be
Mhm.
fun because this is so much fun. It's so vibrant. It's also playful, and it's just so interesting visually, right? And there are a lot of references, obviously, to the Grateful Dead that I'm not as familiar with, so I did have to do my research. And then also, I'm not gonna speak too much on this one, but Tarot Guiding Muse. This was June and July. This was just June and July. So
Mhm.
love this. One of my top favorites of all time. Top favorites of all time. I love everything about this deck, and I love the main character, and I love that we just see her taking on all these different personas. She's like investigator, scientist, pirate. She's just awesome. So that was fun. And then the other thing I did was I worked with the yokai playing cards.
Mhm.
This was a deck that somebody gifted me, and it was with the idea I was going to turn this into an oracle deck where I fashioned my own guidebook based on what I learned about the yokai. And I quickly realized that that was a bad idea because it would have been the most depressing, morbid ass guidebook and only used. I mean, just some really yeah. So I was like, and for some of these, you're like, oh, that's such a cute little, creature. And no, sinister AF. So
Yeah.
like, no, never. I abandoned it pretty quickly. I'm like, this is not gonna work out. This is not gonna work. So yeah. But it was I still pursued learning about each yokai. So I would pull from it and then would just look up generally the story of that particular yokai because there's nothing aside from
Mhm.
just the cards to
Mhm.
tell me. So that was a fun exercise. And then July, I'll just quickly talk about another deck that we have talked about before in the yeah, this was a birthday gift, and oh my gosh,
Isn't it good? It's so
cards
good.
are so good, so good. It just the vibrancy of it, the different depictions, yeah, the colorway, like I just everything, the square shape, the
Mhm.
fact that like it's just it's so good, so
It
good.
shuffles so nice in the
Oh,
boxes.
it
It's
was
so, yeah.
so good,
Yeah.
Mhm.
so good. And other than like our Bangtan,
Mhm.
I don't have any other square decks really,
Mhm.
and I love me a square deck. It turns out,
Mhm.
so yeah. So this was a lot of fun. I'm not again usually one to go for like really modern decks, and I would say this is kind of a nice mix. It's like modern and yet kind of has a timeless feel to it, or
Mhm.
and almost like a nostalgic feel to it
Mhm.
too,
Mhm.
with just like the colors and yeah. So that was my June and July for tarot and oracle.
Well, this is going to be hilarious because I'm going to be talking about like all the same decks, but I will keep it short because they're all the same decks. So in June, I used the Bon Sequitur for most of the beginning part of June. And I also love this deck. It's wonderful. I mean, everything that Julie said and that I said while Julie was talking is absolutely true. And it's just, this is a super good deck. Like it was one of those decks that I saw it and the art style of it immediately grabbed me. I think it's different from anything else in the way that the art style is and the choice of colors and everything. But I also agree, like it does have a modern but also timeless feel. Because like I had talked about before, one of the first things that attracted me to this deck was the fact that the Fool looks like Anne of Green Gables. So like despite the fact that this is such a modern feeling deck, like the Fool gave me instant nostalgia when I saw it. And like it does have very modern depictions of a lot of the cards, especially the court cards in a lot of ways tend to feel very modern. But also there are other cards where it feels more like almost a slightly medieval Pamela Coleman Smith kind of world, you know, like I don't know, it's just, and the color choices and the way that it's done in sort of a printmaking style with the slight offsets that make it kind of feel a little mid-century almost, like I don't know, it's just a great deck. So I thoroughly enjoyed that one. And then partway through June, I got in the Tarot of the Guiding Muse, so which Julie also talked about, and so again, I will not talk about it very much. Like I don't even know why I'm getting it out to show you guys, but I am.
It's beautiful. It's so
beautiful. It's like so good. Like this is such a cool, like it's a fabulous, fabulous deck. It's awesome. And I really like what you said, Julie, about how the character has so many different personas, because like I don't know, there are certain decks that like make you feel that way, where it's like it gets at all of the different like possible people inside of you, or you feel like it expresses all the possible like sides of your personality, because people have very complex personalities obviously. And this definitely has that feel, and it, because it is the same character but depicted in all of these different situations, it gives it that feel of like, I don't know, it gives it a very sort of like internal kind of feel, I guess, is how I feel about it. So wonderful deck. So cool. Just love it. Had a really good time working with it. So that is a really fun one. And now I'm finally going to talk about a deck that you haven't already talked about, which is the Oracle that I worked with, which I worked with Tarot of the Guiding Muse. But I bought this Oracle like knowing that it wasn't the kind of oracle that I normally even like, and I just still wanted it anyway. And that is the Forest of Enchantment Oracle. Because this came out and everybody was excited about it. But the thing about it is that it is the kind of oracle that just has like not helpful keywords, right? Like you have to look at the guidebook to work with this deck. You know, like this one just says the questing beast, and this one just says the white lady. Like they don't have lore keeper's bookshop, like they don't have actual like
qualifying descriptions or
yeah exactly. So you really do, you know, wood woes, like what the hell does that mean? So you do have to go to the guidebook, which is fine because I really like the guidebook. And I don't know, I wasn't bothered in any way by it. I just enjoyed pulling a pretty card and then reading the description. So it was like the most simplistic possible way of working with an oracle, but it's so pretty that I just had a nice time with it. So yeah, it's a really, I mean, the artwork is like phenomenal. It's so good. Like it could not be more beautiful. So I would like to actually give it a try using this with the actual Forest of Enchantment deck, which I also have. I didn't want to give up on Tarot of the Guiding Muse and pull out a different tarot, so I just used this with that tarot. But it's such a nice deck. I had such good readings with it. This card, like this three little pigs card came up for me a couple of times and was very, very interesting circumstances. So yeah, it's good deck. So those were the ones that I used.
Well, I'll work backwards and try not to be redundant, because in July I worked with Tarot of the Guiding Muse. I'm not going to get the cards out and show you for a third time. But and I don't really have anything to add that hasn't already been said. It's a fantastic deck. I really, really like it. So I'm still working with it at the moment, but I've had another deck come in, so I'm going to change it. And then in June, I did work with the Next World Tarot for a little bit, but then I very quickly swapped to the Fifth Spirit Tarot. And I was just really in the mood for this one. It was just, I could see it from where I was. And I was like, I really want to work with that deck for a while. I haven't had it out for a while. I love this deck. There's something really simple but really profound about this deck. And it's not a pip deck, but it's close to a pip deck that kind of feels like I'm working with a pip deck anyway. And I just really enjoy it. I like how modern it is and how simple some of it is, but how meaningful. I had a really, really good time with this one. And I like the guidebook as well for this one. So it's one of those ones where I do like to check in with the guidebook when I pull a card, which I don't always do, but yeah. So I worked with that for the majority of June and I had a very good time. I don't really have much more to say about it than that, really.
Well, our next topic, as always, is books. So I will pop Julie into the middle.
Okay. So I'll just talk about a couple for each month. One book I read was Where the Dark Stands Still by A.B. Paranik, which I'm not familiar with this author. So first time reading this author, and it's a fantasy novel, and it's about this young woman, Liska, and she is essentially she's a witch, but trying to stifle her magic because magic is bad, magic is wrong, and so her family tells her to hide her abilities, and she tries to smother it, but you know what happens when you're trying to repress something like this. So something, there's an incident that happens that is traumatizing for her. She feels that her magic is at fault. So she decides to flee her village and she runs into this kind of like forbidden magical wood where there is this, there's supposed to be this like magical fern that anybody who finds and plucks this mystical fern will be granted a wish. And of course, so she wants to find this so that she can pluck it, have a wish, and her wish would be that her magic would be gone. She would be rid of it. Which people who have done this, finding this fern, it's not gone well. They've all died, but she's desperate. So anyway, she's on the hunt for this fern, and she runs into this demon lord. He's essentially like the keeper of that wood, and he makes a bargain with her that if she gives him basically like a year of servitude, he will give her that fern to make her wish. So it's interesting. I think I enjoyed it. The fact that I finished, yeah, I think I enjoyed it. I think so. And then the other one I read was the near. So I was on my V.E. Schwab kick. So I read The Near Witch, and that's her first novel, I believe. And you can tell I still enjoyed it fine. But it's basically about, it takes place in this like quaint little town called Near, and this young woman, Lexi, she one night in the middle of the night, she sees through a window this boy who seems very like ethereal and like almost like he's like fading in and out of smoke, and just it's very strange and eerie, and he like disappears. But then the next day, the children start disappearing in that town, and other people have spotted this same boy. So they're equating these disappearances of these children to this stranger that's come into the town. And then there's also like this folklore about a witch in Near. They call her the Near Witch. And so Lexi's wondering, okay, is there some correlation between the stories of the Near Witch and this boy? So she's trying to just unravel all that mystery while they're still looking for these children and trying to save these children. So it definitely felt like, given the other novels, like a first novel, and it was still, it was still entertaining. And then honorable mention, I did read Funny Story by Emily Henry, which I won't go into because you two have already talked about it. catch-ups, but I will say I did have a lot of fun with that. And this is only the second Emily Henry book that I've read, and I much preferred this one to the other one, which was People We Meet While Vacation.
On
Yeah.
vacation.
People
Yeah,
We
yeah,
Meet
yeah.
on Vacation.
Mhm.
I just much preferred this one was just so much more fun and engaging and like just yeah, I really liked it. So
Mhm.
and then in July, one book that I read was Where the Heart Should Be by Sarah Crossman. And this was written interestingly in poetic prose. So I was interested in trying it out for that aspect. I wasn't sure if that would work for me or not, and I found that I really liked it. I really liked so it's written in stanzas, but like it's still read fluidly like a
Mhm.
novel. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
just kind of very minimalistic yet um, everything you need to make the novel, at least in my mind, feel well-rounded and developed. So it's basically it takes place during like the Great Potato Famine, like in Ireland, like 1840s. So it's in the smack middle of the Great Famine, and just yeah, blight, people starving to death. It's yeah, pretty tragic. And so you have this Nell, I think Nell. She's like basically she comes to work as a scullery maid in this estate, and one of the young men that lives in this estate, he's going to be basically the British heir to this Irish land,
Mhm.
right? It's going through this blight, and so and there's this like romance that it develops between the two, and they have to keep it secret and all that. But to me, that was like the least interesting part of the story, like their romance.
Mm.
It was more about like the famine and her trying to keep her family afloat and together and all that. So that was I enjoyed it. And it wasn't that long. And so because it is like poetic prose, so that was good. And then I also read Howl's Moving Castle by Diane Wynne Jones in July. And so that's the Studio Ghibli movie, Howl's Moving Castle, is based on this novel, and I almost DNF'd it. So it's basically about this Sophie. She's like one of three daughters that helps her mom in this hat shop, and this one witch mistakenly um, she accuses her of something that she didn't do and puts a curse on her. And the curse is her becoming this older woman, this old lady essentially. And so Nell knows that the only way, or sorry, Sophie knows that the only way she can kind of break this curse is um, to go find Howl, who and his ever moving castle. So Howl and his moving castle are known throughout that town, and they have this reputation. And so she goes and finds him and lives with him for a time, and you see what develops there and how they are try to rid themselves of these curses. And yeah, I think what kept me going was like I wanted to see how it compared to the movie. And there were just a lot of ways in which the movie takes liberties and branches off
Mhm.
and such. And I have to say, I much preferred the movie. And it could be that watched the movie first.
Mm.
Yeah, and so I have an attachment to the movie. It's one of my favorite Studio Ghibli movies. So in comparison, reading the novel, I found Howl way less likable in a lot of ways, and just I don't know. I finished it though.
Mhm.
Sarah went through a whole
That
roller
pink
coaster of
one.
emotions then. She was so excited that you read it, and then she was really despondent that you almost DNF'd it. And then she was really happy when you were describing the story. And then she started to look a bit sad again when you described it. She didn't really like it very much. I was like, oh my God, she's having like a whole emotional break.
Oh, I went on a whole emotional journey there. Yeah, I truly did. I will talk about two books from each month, I guess. So one of the books that I read in June that I thoroughly enjoyed, and I thought I probably would because Heather has already talked about this book, but that is A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher, which is a retelling of The Goose Girl, in which the main character Cordelia has this very villainous mother who is a sorceress who can make Cordelia obedient, meaning that she just like takes over Cordelia's body and can make Cordelia do whatever her mother wants her to do. And she uses this power in an incredibly abusive way. And so it basically it involves the mother setting her sights on this guy that she wants to get married to who is wealthy, and kind of gets her claws into this guy. And so the mother and Cordelia go to stay at his like manor house, and he has a sister whose name is Hester, who is like the best character ever. And T. Kingfisher is so amazing at writing like middle-aged women. Which makes me connect to her book so much, I think. So because and Hester has a couple of friends who are also amazing. And basically it's just a story about them figuring out what's going on with Cordelia and her super, super evil mother. And trying to get everybody freed from the clutches of this very terrible sorceress. Such a good book. Just great characters, such a good read. I flew through it. I've started really liking T. Kingfisher. I also read a book called The Saint of Bright Doors. That was such a fascinating book. It was not a super easy read because it's one of those books where the way that the world works is just sort of taken for granted. And it's about this guy whose name is Fetter. And it takes place in what clearly is a sort of alternate version of South Asia in India. And this kid has been Fetter has been trained by his mother to assassinate his father at some point in the future. Like that has been his entire upbringing, is this training to assassinate his father, who's like a leader of this religious cult, basically. And the whole thing takes place in what feels like the modern day, but in like a modern day alternate world version. I can't even explain it in a way that makes sense, but it's a very, very interesting read. And in a way, it's almost more like about just the feeling of the world than the narrative, I feel like, in a lot of ways. And the world feels very familiar and very unfamiliar at the same time. And it was a very interesting read. And then in July, I read 2 books by Grady Hendrix. So again, that Heather has already talked about. One of them, I think. So one of them was The Final Girl Support Group, which I liked okay. I definitely finished it. I read the whole thing. I think I said in my Goodreads review of it that it kind of felt like a title in search of a plot. Like I felt like he came up with this whole concept of the Final Girl Support Group, which is like a really fun, amusing concept for a story, and then had to sort of like figure out how to make a story out of it. And basically it's like there is this support group of final girls, like the final girls in slasher movies, the ones who actually survive the, everything that happens in the movie. The final girls in the support group start getting killed and targeted. And so one of them, who is the most paranoid one, has to figure out what's happening to them. And it was an entertaining book, I guess I will say. Like, I don't think that it was his best book by any means, but it was definitely entertaining enough to keep me reading. The other one that I read, though, was a Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, and I loved that one. Like that one was so good. It's about in the 80s, this book club of Southern women who all get together and they all start reading true crime books. Like that's their book club. Is like it's a true crime book club. So they're reading all the classics of true crime, like Anne Rule and all that kind of stuff. And then this very strange guy moves into their neighborhood after his aunt passes away and leaves her house to him, and all of these sort of mysterious circumstances. And then the main character, who is, a Southern housewife in the 80s, whose mother-in-law, who has dementia, lives with them, is very intrigued by this guy, but also a little put off by him because he is strange and like he's kind of comes out of nowhere and worms his way into the community. And the mother-in-law with dementia seems to recognize him and doesn't like him for some reason. It was really good, really good. One of my favorite Grady Hendrix books for sure.
So I'll try and talk about only a couple from each month as well. So in June, I read 2 P. Jelly Clarks. I read Ring Shot, which was good, but my least favorite of his so
Mhm.
far. And then I read A Master of Gin, which I think you've both talked
Yes.
about before. I
Both.
gave that 5 stars. That
Yeah.
book was phenomenal. There was nothing about that book I did not enjoy. The
Mhm.
whole thing was just from beginning to end. I audio read it, and the audio narrator was good. The story was good. The characters were fantastic. I was like, I'm in love. I'm
Mhm.
just in love. He's turning out to be one of my favorite authors at this
Mhm.
point,
Mhm.
I think. I won't go into the story and stuff because, as I say, you both talked about it in previous ones before. And then in June, I also read this delightfully weird book that called Of Monsters and Mainframes by Barbara Truelove. And this features an AI computer in a spaceship in a period of time where humans have moved from Earth to other planets, and this spaceship is taking a whole lot of people from one planet back to Earth. And we start the book with the computer waking up and realizing something's not right. And it turns out that everybody on the ship is dead. Every passenger is dead, and they were killed by Dracula, who was also on the ship. And then the ship gets like sent off for some work because obviously nobody knows that Dracula was on the ship, kind of like the Demeter, where everybody thinks something weird just happened on this ship.
Mhm.
And so it gets sent off and has some work done, and then it reawakens at another time and realizes that all of its passengers bar 2 are dead, and there's a werewolf on the ship. And then it starts to like go into the story, and you have like Cthulhu monsters turn up on this ship and stuff. It was so weird and so much fun. I had such a good time, and I would definitely recommend it. I don't know if this was a debut, but if it was very well written,
Mhm.
and it was delightful. It was so much fun. I would highly recommend. And then the opposite end of the delightfulness, I read in July, I read The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa, I think is her name. This is a dystopian story about an island. It's a Japanese translation, and it's about an island where things just disappear. Like, so they wake up one day and birds no longer exist, and they all have to, like, you have people in the streets who bring out their birds in cages and they release them and let them go. So birds technically exist, but they no longer exist. And people have to forget about them, and people do forget about them for some reason. People's memories rewrite themselves, and they can no longer remember these things. But you have a certain people on this island who retain their memories, and the memory police have been employed by the government to go around and root out these people and round them up and take them away to a facility where nobody knows what happens to them when they get there. And our main character is an author who discovers that her editor is one of these people that can remember things. So she builds this secret room in her house and hides him there. It's been compared in some ways to 1984 because of the whole, thoughts, like
Mhm.
controlling people's thoughts and memory police and stuff. But it has the most saddest ending. Like it's one of probably the most depressing dystopians I've
Mhm.
read in a long, long time. And the book is really about identity and how our identity is so tied up in the memories that we have of things. It's very well written, and nothing is really explained. Like, it doesn't try and explain why this is happening. It just is, and it doesn't explain how it's happening. Again, it just is. It's just one of those things that exists on this island, and that's the way that it works. But it was very good. I would recommend it, but you go into it knowing that it's not a happy ending. It does not go in a direction that you would want it to, or I wanted it to, but it was very well written. And then I finished the Angel of Indian Lake by Stephen Graham Jones, which is the third book in a trilogy, in the Indian Lake trilogy, which is about a town that has a slasher problem, basically. And we have our main character, Jennifer Daniels, and I can't really tell you anything about it because it would ruin all of the books, but everybody needs to read this trilogy. It's so good.
It's on my list.
so,
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah. I have
And
the first book.
it was I was really happy with the way that it ended. I thought it was a really good ending to a really good series. Stephen Graham Jones obviously has a love for slasher movies, and it is so apparent in this trilogy. And it's just it's lovely. It's wonderful. It's not wonderful. It's horror, but it was wonderful to me. I sound like a psycho sometimes. And then the other book that I read that took me by surprise was Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldry. I actually really enjoyed it. I wasn't sure if I would, because I struggle with books that don't have stakes. Like, I need stakes in my books, but I think this had enough stakes that it kept me entertained. The characters, actually, I will say that I was going to say the characters were great. The two main characters are great. The rest of the characters are a little bit two-dimensional and feel a little bit like scenery. But even with that, I still had a really, really good time. I will say, though, I enjoyed it enough that I have had enough of that world. So I don't intend to read Bookshops and Bone Dust. And I'm not sure I'll read the one that's due out later this year either.
Well, let's move on to our next category, which is TV, movies, anything else that entertainment-wise that we want to talk about.
So, okay, in June, I have to talk about K-pop Demon Hunters because that came out around my birthday. And since then, I have watched that movie an undisclosed number of times. And I'm not one to rewatch shows and movies, like, especially if I've seen it recently. This one is just like, just taking up all the space in my brain, like up until what this spring, August. And I'm just like, the songs, like just everything. So basically, this is an animated movie. And it's just like this mix of like K-pop slash K-drama all wrapped up in animation. And it's about this really popular K-pop band called Huntrix. And it's Rumi, Mira, and Zoe. And basically, this is a cover for the fact that they're actually demon hunters. And so they're trying to protect, the people and the fans. And there's this main antagonist. The villain is this like demon lord named Grima, and so they're trying to protect everybody from him. And essentially, they come up on this rival K-pop band called the Saja Boys, and basically these Saja Boys are Grima's demons. Trying to help him do his bidding, which is to like steal people's souls and take over the world and all that good stuff. And so it's perfection, like legit, like just the characterization, the animation is beautiful, and the songs are so good. And Matt watched it with me, and even though it wasn't necessarily his thing, he's singing the songs. Like it's just, you can't help it. And like there are these two characters. There's like a tiger magpie duo that are like two of my favorite characters. It's just so good. So good. Watch it. If you haven't watched it, then I would be surprised. I feel like everyone, even people who aren't into animation, aren't into K-pop, like I just feel like everyone has already, they at least know about it. And then another movie that I watched in June was The Materialists with Dakota Johnson, right? Chris Evans and Pedro Pascal. And basically, this tells the story of Dakota's character. She is Lucy. Her name is Lucy, and she works in New York as a matchmaker. She's a matchmaker for this really lucrative matchmaking company, and she goes to a wedding of one of her successful matches where she meets Pedro Pascal's character, Harry, and he's what they call a unicorn. He ticks all the boxes. And so she tries to basically solicit him to become a client of hers. And then, she ends up having, there ends up being interest there. She ends up falling for him, at the same time being unexpectedly reunited with an ex, played by Chris Evans, who is the exact opposite of a unicorn. So yeah, it was entertaining. I went with a friend. It was a polite, courteous 2 hours long. We were highly entertained. And it's definitely a conversation starter about like the idea of like your ideal partner. And I'm talking like this is a cishet movie. That's the focus. So if we're talking about like cishet partnership, like the boxes that one needs to tick, what that looks like on paper versus how that translates in real, like is just it was entertaining. Did not care for the ending, but overall, it was an entertaining movie and a good, good for conversation. And then in July, we finished watching Apothecary Diaries season 2, which I've talked about in previous catch ups. So that was good fun. And then we did go and see Superman, which was, I enjoyed it. It definitely, it felt heavy for like a superhero movie. I usually like my superhero movies to be on the light side, kind of fun and mindless fun. And this one thematically felt heavier. So there are definitely points where I'm like, God, this is depressing. This is Superman. I'm like depressed, but and still, a good movie. I thought I enjoyed it. I thought the actor who plays, who took on the Superman role, completely fine. I think Henry Cavill will always be my bias, but like this guy was fine. It's fine. So yeah, that was a good time.
Well, I'm gonna be pretty quick because obviously I've had the same experience with K-pop Demon Hunters, and it kind of became my personality for a little while. But a very, very, very fun movie. In June, there was speaking of K-pop stuff, I mean, or sort of K-pop, that there was a lot of BTS content, obviously, because they all got discharged from the military, and it was Festa, and there were concerts. Like one of them was on tour, and then another one has since gone on tour, and so I've been watching getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning to watch concerts, in addition to like all of the stuff happening around all of them getting out of the military and everything. So that was like it was a month we'd been waiting for a long time as Army, and it was very, very happy and lovely. I also was working at that point on a full like Star Wars rewatch, which I watched like every Star Wars movie, and then like started rewatching The Mandalorian also. So that happened, and then in July, I watched a lot of shark shows because you guys have met me, and that's what I do in the summer is I watch shark shows.
So I also watched K-pop Demon Hunters. Big surprise there, and I've seen it twice, and I'm probably going to watch it again later because it's very good. I won't talk about it anymore. In June, I watched Snow White. So I watched the live action version of Snow White on Disney Plus. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good movie. It was fine. I enjoyed it more than I enjoyed The Little Mermaid. I will say that. I don't love the 1937 version of that film, the animated version, which I think helps.
Yeah,
because I did enjoy the film. Will it go down in history as one of the best films I've ever seen? Absolutely not. It was fine. It was just fine. It was. I don't think it deserves anywhere close to the amount of hate that it gets on the internet. I think that a lot of the hate on the internet has got absolutely nothing to do with that movie.
I agree, yeah.
And a lot to do with so many other things.
Yes.
But if you can ignore all of that and just watch it for what it is, which is just a live action Disney version of a film that they did an animated version of first, it was fine. It wasn't the best, but it wasn't the worst of the ones that they've released either. So it was fine. And then I also watched, in July, I watched The Blackening, which is a horror film with an all-black cast about these 7 friends who go off to, it's got so many references to other horror films in it. It's really good fun, but they go off to a cabin. So they meet up, they were all at college together, and they have like this reunion for Juneteenth. And in the basement, they find this incredibly racist game. And they this screen comes on and basically tells them they have to play this game if they don't want their friends to die. And then they get stalked by like killers, like slasher killers in this cabin, and have to try and find a way to survive the night, basically. It was and it's deliberately, like, it's very deliberately focused on how Black people are normally portrayed in horror movies, and how they're normally the first to die, or they're just, you know, they're jokey best friend or whatever.
Right.
And it does a really, really good job of what it sets out to do. And it was also a lot of fun. If you like slashers and comedy slashers like I do, it was a very good film. I had a great time. And then series wise, I watched A Good Girl's Guide to Murder on Netflix, which is based on a book. It has the Enid from Wednesday is the actress.
Okay.
But she's playing an English girl. It's set in a British little village, and so many years ago, a girl was murdered. Well, a girl disappeared, and everybody assumed she was murdered. And everybody thought her boyfriend did it. She's doing this thing for school, this project for school, where they have to do this extended project to get into like Cambridge or Oxford or one of the big unis. And she wants to prove that he didn't do it. So she starts investigating and gets in touch with his brother and stuff. It's really weird. The book was much better. I will say the book was much better, but the series is good. It was enjoyable. It took liberties, which the series always do. So it's not, you know, the book verbatim, because that would be, it wouldn't necessarily work and it would be too long, but it was good.
Last category is wild cards. So just what else has been going on in our lives?
June was fine. We had the in-laws come to visit. It was like a belated Mother's Day / Father's Day celebration that came around Father's Day. So, you know, we took them out to dinner and everything. So that happened, and then it was my birthday, so that happened, and it was nice to just have some good food and hang out with friends. So that was June. And then, you know, July, so a close friend was going to have a major surgery. And so she actually wanted to like do something fun prior to surgery. So we took the opportunity of the US 4th of July holiday to a group of us just do like a local, you know, getaway. So we drove like an hour and a half out into like Maryland and just rented this Airbnb, which was like this farmstead, which it wasn't as rural as it sounded. Like we weren't turning butter or anything. It was like a very beautiful property and like modern and everything. Beautiful patio area, separate building for like entertainment. You know, they had like air hockey and like they had, was it cornhole and just curling, like they just had a bunch of things to do in that separate area. So it was just a beautiful, you know, beautiful Airbnb, and we all just got to hang out and, you know, grill, eat good food and play games and just chill out. And the weather turned out to be perfect because it's been dumping rain here on and off, so which has been annoying, but just that weather was actually nice and mild and not as humid. So that was probably the highlight of July.
Well, so my main thing in June, I actually started my new job at the very end of May, like one of the last days of May. And so, so June was new job. I had to do some work travel, like right off the bat, spend a week out of town. But everything's going really well, and I'm actually very happy in my new job. So that has been really great. I also spent a lot of time, my sister and brother-in-law who live in Colorado with my niece and nephew, bought a lake place in Minnesota last summer, and which was amazing. And so this was the first summer that they were up at the lake place all summer. And my sister and the kids were here for almost like well over a month and a half, getting close to 2 months up at the lake place. And then my brother-in-law sort of flies back and forth because he has work. So he comes for like a week here and then goes home for a week and then comes back, that kind of thing. But so they were up at the lake, and I went up there a couple of weekends to spend up at the lake, and actually took some long weekends because my job is remote, so I was able to work from there for a few days. And we just had so much fun. It's a beautiful lake. The house is it's a cute little lake house, like a little cabin. So I sleep up in the loft with the kids. You know, there's like 4 twin beds up there, and so I sleep in the room with them. And like honestly, we had such a marvelous time. It's a great lake for boating, fishing, like, you know, tubing, water skiing, like all that kind of stuff. And everybody just like had the best time. Like, I'm so happy they bought that place because it's like a perfect, they get to spend the whole summer up there, and then we can just like go up when we can. It's about a 2.5, 3 hour drive depending on traffic. So it's not too bad of a drive for the weekend. And it's really, it was just so much fun. So they just went back to Colorado like a couple days ago. So I'm a little sad, but we had a wonderful summer up at the lake. And that, you know, that's pretty much it. I mean, it's just been a nice summer of like new job and family time, and that's basically all I've been spending my time doing when I'm not watching shark shows. So that's pretty much it for me.
In June, I don't really have anything in June. What did I do in June? I joined a gym. That was the most exciting thing that happened to me in June. I joined the gym. There was a local gym that opened like literally 2 minutes walk away from my house. I haven't been inside a gym in 10 years. So I thought, I'm joining the gym. I'd forgotten how much I like to move my body. I have to say, I'm really loving being in the gym and being able to go to the gym and move my body and stuff. So that's been really good. And I'd also forgotten how much being in the gym is good for your mental health and how much you sleep better and all of that stuff. So that's pretty much what I did in June, was got back into the habit of being in the gym. July, I also went away for the 4th of July weekend, except it wasn't the 4th of July weekend. It was just
a weekend.
Happened to be the 4th. I went away with my mum and my sister for a weekend, a long weekend. My sister was 50 in July. So the three of us went to, it's a hotel, but it's a hotel that has like chalets. I don't know if you call them chalets in the US too. Yeah, so they had chalets on the ground, and we had me and my mum shared one, and my sister had the other one, because it was basically just a bedroom and a bathroom. And they had loads of like activities that you could sign up for through the day. So we had to go at a line dancing class and stuff. And then in the evening on both nights, they have different entertainers. And this weekend was the Retake That weekend. So the group on the Saturday night were a Take That tribute group who were amazing. And I mean, I was a teenager in the 90s in the UK. And yes, I was a huge Take That fan, like huge Take That fan. I didn't ring any helplines when they split up, but I did cry a little bit. But I was also like 11, so 12 maybe, I don't know, I can't remember. But yeah, I loved to Take That, and this group was so good. It was a lot of fun. We had a really, really nice weekend, really nice. The rest of July I didn't really do all that much, to be fair.
So that covers all of our topics. So we will be going live as the 3 Girls 1 Deck like normal coming up this coming weekend, which is August 16th. So that's going to be on Julie's channel at the normal time, and which is at noon Central, 1 Eastern, and 6 British time. I got it all right. Awesome. And actually, this time is going to be a little different because we are going to be doing a little bit of a 7th anniversary celebration for all of our channels, because all of our channels turned 7 this year. And mine was in July, and Heather just had hers, and Julie's is coming up at the beginning of September. We all have our like 7th channel anniversaries, and like 7 is a cool number. So we are going to be just doing a little celebration of that on the live. So hope you'll join us. And aside from that, thanks so much as always for joining us for our monthly catch-ups, and we'll see you again next month. So have a great one, everybody. Bye-bye.